All right, students, I want to work with perspective today and showing you how to draw 3D shapes so that you can create a nice drawing using form, using value, making sure that we're using our 7 elements of art to create some artwork. So today we're going to work with the word love. And the first thing that you're going to do is draw a line like this to get your stance on the paper. And then you're going to draw a diagonal line in the corner like this, going towards the corner. And it shouldn't be directly straight up like a 180, and it shouldn't be straight horizontally like a flat 2D shape or like a 90-degree angle. You're really going to want to have a diagonal arcing here so that you can start to create the back flat diamond shape of the top part of the L. And then we're going to bring another line down like so. But this line is going to come down longer than the first line. And now we're also going to bring a line down like right here, diagonally. Not again a flat line like we're working with a 2D shape. We're working with 3D shapes, and we're not doing 90-degree angles or horizontal lines. We're going to make sure we have diagonal lines where we're going to try to bring this L out so that it looks like the L is right in front of us. And so we're going to create these 3D shapes where we're going to have 2-dimensional perspective that we're going to create as we're working with these shapes. All right. This word love is going to have all the sides of these blocks showing so that you can really try to have a perspective of looking at the L or the block shapes from many different perspectives. Even our O, when we bring our O in, it's going to have a different surface to it. So you're going to have an arc that comes down like this, and once you have that arc, we're going to get multiple surfaces for our O right here. And it's going to have a top. These are, again, these are 3D shapes, not 2D shapes. Okay? So now what we're going to do is draw right down here. Like these shapes are standing up. So we're having not just a 1-point perspective, we're having a 2-point perspective on these letters, where that you can really see, even inside of the letters, you're going to be able to look inside of them. You're going to look on the side of them, and you're going to get the feel of what the letters look like by drawing them like this. They're going to have edges, they're going to have corners to them. So you're going to make sure you arc even the back here of this. And then bring this right around here, your O. And now our V is going to come down just kind of like our O. It's going to come right near it, but it's going to be sitting on the paper in a different way. This V is going to look, well, we're looking at it, but it's diagonal. So we're going to bring the V up here like this. And you're going to still be able to see some of the top of the V because it's arced. All right, and then we're going to bring it right down here. And we're going to see the other side of the V as well. But the E is going to jump right in and interrupt the shape, the back side of the shape. So here we go with the other side of the E. Bring a straight line down. And so you're looking like you're adding the letters in space. So you're not working on a flat piece of paper. You're giving the shapes depth to them. That's what your main goal is to give the shapes depth. And when you give something depth, there's the front view and then there's the back view. So you're really trying to work with the diagonal and give the eye the perception that it can see all these different sides of the letterings. So now we're even gonna bring the E back here in space, right over here. You have to excuse me. Some of these are a little bit off, some of the lines, because we're drawing from a camera here. But the same thing kind of applies though, where things are not just flat and dead on. We're working with angles. So we're gonna go in the diagonal angle where we have in like 60-degree angles, but nothing is really flat. So we're not going to just design with straight up and down letters. Every letter kind of has an angle to it, so that we can get that design of, okay, we see that these letters are cubed letters. These letters are shapes that are intersecting on more of a 3D plane. So even our E back here is gonna have some darker shading right over here. It's not gonna be the same. And then at the top right here, I'm gonna extend this one. This line at the bottom extending part of the E. We're gonna have so now we have depth to the letters where we're not just designing on a flat plane. We're working in a kind of like a spatial awareness 3D plane, where these letters have more depth to them than flatness. So that's why we're gonna darken in these edges or these sides that don't have the light hitting them right directly on them. They're kind of in the background. You know, we're gonna shade in some of our O right in here as well. There we go. Shading that in and making sure our edges are dark enough. Right over here. And then we're gonna even bring in some shadows at the bottom of the letters to give ourselves a little more depth perception. These letters are maybe sitting on a glass table and giving us some reflection down in here. And then right back over here, we're gonna extend this up. This may be the most flat or straight line that you have with this design, because most of our lines are extending backwards in space, giving you the illusion of space. We really want to work on giving the illusion of space, okay? So that nothing is just laying flat. We're gonna give everything a surface. So you really gonna wanna extend this back out over here with a shadow, like this L is standing up on its own. And then you're gonna softly bring in a little bit of shadowing down in here, a little bit more. So you can do this with a crayon, you can do this with a pen or a pencil and get some smudging going in here. And making sure that you're really trying to give the letters depth to them. Depth, D-E-P-T-H, depth. So they're like extended. The letters are sitting on like a table and they're giving you the stance of like, I'm gonna even smudge this because we really want these letters to stand up. We don't want them to sit flat, like they're actually on the piece of paper. So you can just do some light shading to give them a surface. And the shading creates shadowing so that we really begin to feel like there's surface to these letters. They have a life to them. They're not flat, they're 3D, even though they may not be 3D, but we're trying to work on using all of the elements of art to really change our drawings to being more alive and awake. So that's what we're doing with this one here, by giving it the shadowing right in there. And make sure that this area is darker right here in the front of your shadowing. This should be the darkest area. It's a crevice. The sun is not really hitting it, or the light, where your light source is coming from, is not hitting it too much. And that's where you're going to really try to just give texture to your letters. Remember, texture is one of our 7 elements of art. So you're gonna work to extend that. Give this darker area here, this back side, to give it a surface, making sure all your letters have a surface. Everything is gonna have surface that you're working on. Right over here, this has surface. And then right up here. So if I were to grid this paper out so that you could see more about what has surface and what does not have surface, what you would begin to find is that when you're designing on a plane or on like a 3D axis, your letters, they extend out all the way back here. And this is supposed to extend all the way out here. So you're giving yourself this imaginary axis where you're designing on a imaginary axis plane of space. And you're using your paper as seeing it as we're designing with space that we really can't see. So you have to trick yourself to think, okay, there's more here on the surface than what I'm working with. But I want to give people the idea that there is an atmosphere. There is a 3D plane that we're drawing on. So we're working with not just one perspective, but a multiple perspective idea in our mind of 3D block letter shapes. So everything kind of has a everything has a surface. It has multiple sides. It's three-dimensional. So we're not really doing a lot with flatness. We're not just focusing on everything just sitting flat on the page. And we want to design our whole paper and extend things as far as we can on the plane that we're working on the 3D dimensional plane, where things are not on a flat surface. Everything is not just laying down. We want things to stand up and to have almost a statuesque look to them. So that's why we do our shading to give surface. We do our texturing and really trying to give the viewer an environment where these cube letters can stand up on their own. That's our main purpose here as an artist. We're trying to give the idea of space, of texture. We're trying to give the viewer an idea of what it feels like to look at these block letters and what they look like as they're standing up right in front of the viewer. To give you an idea of space, designing in the round, functionality. And so these extend off here like that. That's what that would be, because they would be standing up. And these lines can even, that's how your lines should be. So you want your proportions even to be correct as well. So maybe what we should have done is even brought this line straighter over and then stood our block up right here. Because if we were to give you an example of how to even draw a cube in space, our cube has multiple sides to it. So if I give you the example here of the cube, we draw our square, which is the flat form or the flat shape. It's a shape first in the 2D, and then it becomes to have more form in the 3D. So we extend our lines back into space to give our different sides an idea and a way to wake up and to become something more than just 2D, but we want 3D. So we're designing in space. And if I were to say, all right, our light source is coming from right over here. So our brightest areas, because the light source is here, is the light. Our brightest areas would be where the light hits it here the most. So then I would have a lot of, where the light is not hitting that area, I would have a lot of shading and making sure that this would be the brightest, whitest area. This would be kind of dark because the light is not hitting this area that much. And then of course a shadow would be off right over here to the side. You know, giving us some idea of this cube is sitting with actuality. The cube is sitting clearly on its own, existing in space. But the shadow, darkest area, would be right over here the most, where it's sitting on the ground, right there. Dark, 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 dark. And that's how you work with creating on a 2D surface, creating the 3D. So make sure when you do this, I really want you to have your lines dark, 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 Get your good shading in there. And really spend some time giving your letters texture and surface. And working with form and value. Don't let your letters just sit by themselves flat. Design into the space. Okay? Darken all these edges in really quickly and really well. And this has to be darker right here as well, and then a little bit of darkening right over here, and then really get this edge in right here. The shadow onto the ground. And you can make sure you extend the shadow all the way out downward. And then right over here has a little bit of a shadow as well. So there it is. If you're really perfectionist, you can bring your ruler in and make sure that your edges are perfect. The crisper your edges are, the better it'll look. Trust me. Because I can see here that my edges need to be even more crisp. Smooth my O out over here. Get this dark, dark, dark edge right here. There you go.